The U.S. State Department insists either Moscow or Damascus is behind alleged airstrikes on a number of hospitals in Syria. But it fails to provide any evidence and then attempts to backtrack on the accusations.
A specific discussion of each and every airstrike and who and how it was conducted. That's not for me to say. We have seen additional airstrikes now by Russia and by the regime, and by all accounts, looks like they were deliberately targeted.
Over zealousness on the part of a U.S. official.
President Obama appears to defend a scathing attack on RT by the U.S. State Department spokesperson after John Kirby said he won't treat the channel in the same way as other media outlets. In the wake of Donald Trump's election victory, American voters make renewed efforts to revamp the Electoral College system by which the presidency is awarded. They're questioning how well it really reflects the will of the people. Also ahead, this RT News Hour, a cosmic panorama. RT brings you a 360-degree view from beyond the clouds with the help of a cosmonaut aboard the International Space Station, the first ever shot of its kind in such a setting. Live from our International News Centre, this is RT. My name's Ewan O'Neill. Welcome to the programme. It was either Syria or Russia that conducted airstrikes that recently hit hospitals in different parts of Syria. That is the accusation coming from the U.S. State Department. Despite that, it's failed to provide any evidence to back up the claims. Our Washington correspondent, Gayane Chichikan, has been trying to find out more about the allegations made by American officials, but it has not been an easy task.
I did eventually receive an email from the State Department with the list of 5 hospitals which the State Department believes were hit by airstrikes in Syria over the past few days. The State Department cited the World Health Organization as the source of the information. Given the gravity of the allegations, I asked the State Department about how they drew their conclusions as to who did it.
Did you, the State Department, draw the conclusion that Russia hit the hospitals based on their location, knowing that Russia was carrying out operations in Idlib in the past few days?
We know it wasn't coalition aircraft, so it either had to be Syrian or Russian aircraft. I don't know and wouldn't get into, as I never have from this podium, a specific discussion of each and every airstrike and who and how it was conducted. That's not for me to say. We have seen additional airstrikes now in Syria by Russia and by the regime. And by all accounts, looks like they were deliberately targeted. Who and how it was conducted, that's not for me to say.
Well, obviously you said you don't know which Air Force hit which hospitals, but do you distinguish between the two, or do you accuse them both together of that?
I wasn't making accusations. I was simply expressing concern that we had seen from credible aid agencies by Russia and by the regime. And we have no reason to doubt this because of the sourcing that we're getting, that, 5 hospitals and at least 1 mobile clinic in Syria were struck.
We reached out to the World Health Organization. They confirmed that 5 hospitals were attacked, 3 in western Aleppo and 2 in the Idlib province. The WHO also wrote us it is not their job to, quote, define the cause of damage sustained by these hospitals or to assign the blame, end quote. It has to be noted that in the past few days, Russia has carried out operations against al-Nusra and ISIL in the Syrian provinces of Idlib and Homs. It is not my job to say whether Russia did or did not hit the hospitals mentioned above. It is my job to ask for specifics. And that is what I did.
Evidence is not what the U.S. State Department is interested in. That's how former U.S. diplomat Jim Jatras commented on the accusations in an interview with RT America's Ed Schultz.
The State Department is quoting other organizations. They're not using their intel. They're taking someone else's word and accusing another country of hitting hospitals. Now, I want to ask you tonight, is this standard operating procedure for the State Department?
Unfortunately, it seems like it has become standard operating procedure for the State Department, that they're not interested in the accuracy of these charges. They're not even interested in showing the evidence or even attributing them to their original source so they can be given some degree of scrutiny, which is appropriate when you have something as grave as these accusations.
How much of the back and forth that we've just seen here really is a backdrop to the strained relations between the two countries, that the United States seems to be just fed up that they can't make any progress at all in Syria, and it's now targeting the news agency that is asking the direct questions of actually what is happening on the ground in Syria. Your thoughts on that?
I think that's the major part of what this is about. When all is said and done, the Obama administration's policy in Syria rests on maintaining some kind of viability of al-Qaeda and its allies in Aleppo, and they will throw every spitball and rock they can at the Syrians, the Russians, whoever, in order to blacken this offensive that is going on against the terrorists in Aleppo. And I think they're just, they don't really care about the substance of the charges or whether they can be substantiated.
Well, the news network Ed Schultz is referring to as RT. On Wednesday, when our correspondent asked for evidence to support accusations of Russian airstrikes on hospitals, the State Department spokesperson lashed out at the channel. John Kirby said RT is not to be treated the same as other media outlets. Miguel Francis Santiago takes a look now at how Washington separates journalists into two camps, those in and those out of favor.
What happens when you ask the State Department to back up its accusations with evidence? You risk being labeled an outcast.
I'm not going to put Russia Today on the same level with the rest of you.
Oh, and why is that?
A state-owned outlet,
but they're
Matt,
not
from a state-owned outlet.
An interesting argument, except that RT isn't actually state-owned, but publicly funded, just like BBC, Deutsche Welle, or the U.S.'s own Voice of America. Not sure the State Department would try dodging questions from them in that way. So it looks like some outlets are in favor and others are not. And the State Department has repeatedly made it clear which group RT belongs to.
Again, another ridiculous question.
But what is the response?
I think we're
What
ready
is the
to move on
response?
to a new Ukraine question. Go ahead, Elise.
The situation where the U.S.
I'm going to give you
invites
just one more,
forces-
honestly, and then that's it, okay?
Sure.
You have to be looking at these questions and almost laughing to yourself, don't you? I mean, they're absolutely crazy.
You attack me when you want to evade a question.
No,
You've
I'm
done
not
that
attacking
before.
you. I'm not attacking you.
I'm going to answer the question in the way I think is appropriate, and I just did, and I'm going to move on
Which is
now.
not answering.
But if you dare talk to RT anyway, here's another reason to think again. You could upset the American president. Remember Obama hitting out at Donald Trump for his appearance on this channel?
the doctor, who just last week went on Russian state television to talk down our military and to curry favor with Vladimir Putin.
Now, the media was swift to label Trump Russia's puppet, even though the interview was actually with Larry King, one of the most respected journalists in the West, who happens to have a show on RT. Meanwhile, some U.S. officials are even scared they'll lose their jobs if they work with RT. This is an email we received from Pentagon, apparently by mistake, after we requested to attend their media event. No way are we going to support this. My G2, or intelligence operations, would kill me. Also, Repli TV is a Russian propaganda platform. If things carry on like this...
We will get to the point when, while holding a press conference, officials around the world will set up special tables or even rooms for the out-of-favor journalists.
So how does this caste system of journalists work, and how do you become untouchable?
Most of those journalists who turn up there wouldn't dream of ever asking a terribly important question and putting those press spokesmen on the spot. So whenever a journalist does that, breaks the house rules, if you like, then they immediately get ostracized and taught a lesson.
Oh, well, looks like we're just bad learners. Miguel Francis Santiago, RT.
Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov commented on the harsh response RT's correspondent received during the State Department briefing. He said Mr. Kirby's comments were inappropriate for a diplomat.
I believe it's unacceptable. I believe this is really not reflecting the American proclaimed values. And I hope that this was not the position of the State Department, and this is certainly not the position of the Secretary of State, I can assure you.
Are you going to bring up this topic in the future? You said that this wasn't the right venue, but in the future, do you think...
Well, we're not going to start every day by condemning Mr. Kirby. I believe Mr. Kirby must be disciplined by his own superiors. who respond for what he is doing and how he is doing his job.
Russia's foreign minister was not the only high-level official to react to the incident. President Obama also commented, but in more veiled terms.
In an age where there's so much active misinformation, and it's packaged very well, and it looks the same when you see it on a Facebook page or you turn on your television, where some zealousness on the part of a U.S. official is equated with constant and severe repression elsewhere.
Perhaps it's about the exchange in the State Department where the State Department spokesperson Kirby loses his temper and says actually what all of the officials are saying to themselves or to each other in private, which is that RT or any media or any journalist associated with Russia should be treated as the same. He said it out loud. He said it in public. It's a real embarrassment.
I think it's terribly embarrassing for Obama to have such an amateur as the spokesperson for the State Department. Here you had an insecure man, a retired admiral of all things, faced by sensible questions by an articulate woman who had done her homework. There was no excuse for his behavior.
Well, reacting to the State Department's accusations, Russia's Ministry of Defense pointed out that there have been no strikes on Aleppo by the Russian Air Force for almost a month now. However, the Russian anti-terrorist campaign elsewhere in Syria is in full swing, with bombing raids being conducted against terrorist targets in Homs and also here in Idlib. Those operations are being supported by an aircraft carrier which recently arrived in the area. Moving on now, Barack Obama has met with the leader he calls his closest international partner, German Chancellor Angela Merkel. It's part of the outgoing U.S. president's farewell tour of Europe, just a couple of months before he hands the White House keys over to Donald Trump. Peter Oliver is in Berlin. He brings us more.
Barack Obama wraps up his final European tour as U.S. president on Friday, as he welcomes Mariano Rajoy of Spain, Theresa May of the United Kingdom, and François Hollande of France here to Germany to join himself and Angela Merkel for talks. But on Thursday, it was all about the love-in between President Obama and Chancellor Merkel. The US president talking of his friendship with Mrs. Merkel, as well as going as far as to say that she had been his biggest ally on the world stage.